I'm Frank MacDonald and I live in Inverness. I'm a writer, a former journalist, weekly columnist, a novelist when it's working. And I think you'll find in my writing, particularly my creative writing, my interests don't leave the boundaries of Inverness. I was born in Inverness. I don't know when I became aware that this was home, but when I was in going into grade 8, my father worked at a power plant over at the big river, and it was closed, and he was transferred to Trenton, Nova Scotia. I just never accepted it. I just never even tried to belong somewhere else. And after 2 years of really bad schooling and really bad attitude and a lot of dangerous kind of developments that happened in adolescence around then, I was fortunate that my father and my aunt came to an agreement that perhaps I should come back to Inverness. And so I came back to Inverness and finished high school here, and then went away for off and on for 10 years. Everybody from here goes away off and on for 10 years. It's like serving some sort of sentence, but it's in reality exploring all the options that are out there, and most hope to come back. Not all do, because you can tell by the population drop, but very, very few people who live here, if they have to move somewhere else, sever that connection or trade the town for another home. I think in their hearts, a lot of the people, maybe most of the people who live away, have a relationship with this town that's maybe not everybody's relationship with the town is a joyful one or a healthy one. Who knows what their experiences have been. Mine has been that this town has given me everything that I could possibly want in my life. And so beyond that, and so I don't know what else I would write about.
While we're on the topic of Inverness, Frank, what do you think is the magic about the town of Inverness? What makes Inverness such a special, unique town?
When the town came into being, which was after Hussey developed the coal fields here, and they were taken over by Mackenzie and Mann, who built the railroads and the harbour, and they advertised worldwide for miners. And miners came here from Ireland, from Poland, from Belgium particularly. They all became part of the town that was developing, and that developed over that early part of the 20th century. But there was already a population here for 100 years whose roots were in the Highlands of Scotland and who had been here, and they too had been leaving forever for Boston but always writing home or always coming home. And I think miners, by nature, I think, are a migrant population. You're going where the next boom is. If a mine shuts down, you're off to what's offered next. And I think what happened here in Inverness, the miners who came here from all over, and a lot of the miners came from nearby, from Upside Point and from down Broad Cove and from Shetty Camp. But I think there was a lot of marriages that went on between miners who came in and families who had been here for 100 years. And over the time of the town's development and up past the First World War, when the mines began to run into trouble, this merging of peoples created was not a town, but a home. And a lot of them did not want to leave. And when the last mine closed in '53, there was a lot of people who had left, and there were a lot from here who moved to Waterford long before that, following the mines. But there had been, in the Halifax Herald in '53, I remember a headline that Inverness was going to be a ghost town. And that struck me. I was 9 years old, and that struck me out. You know, I'm going to be living in a ghost. That's kind of exciting. But the thing was that people chose not to leave. And so from that point, and the closing of the mines in '53 was followed by, in 1954, the 50th anniversary of the founding of Inverness, by Old Home Week, which was, in the history of this town, probably the most mythical, magical moment in which we just celebrated being here in this town. The people who organized it, our fathers, our grandfathers, it was a way of saying we're not going anywhere. And for the next 50 years, different organizations in town, different groups, different businesses tried to find an economic way to be here. And up to the creation of the Inverness Development Association, even the dissolution of the town in 1968 when we became part of the municipality. Psychologically, the town may have politically become something else, but psychologically, people in Inverness still live in the town of Inverness. We may not, you know, that's our attitude. Other people refer to it as the village. We don't. It's the town of Inverness. What's evident right now is that the town's fortunes have turned around with the development that's going on around golf. But what impact that's going to have on the future, I don't know. But I do know, or believe, I shouldn't say no, but I believe that that this town became home 100 years ago to diverse peoples, and so it has hung on for that reason, and will be hanging on for a long time to come. It has a character. It has a personality. It's filled with characters. And I said to someone one time that I thought we're losing our characters, the characters that we knew when we were young and when we were. And this person said to me, Frank, maybe we're them. so you know, we replenish ourselves that way. And when it comes to writing, I can't imagine more fertile ground to write about, and I try to reflect the love I have for the town, and hope that it comes across as that. But ultimately, who it depends on what people read or interpret or decide it means.
1954. Were you living in Inverness at the time?
I was 9 years old. Yes,
really young.
And I was young, and it was, there were it went on all week. There were parades, there were races all week, there were daredevils, there were boat races in the pond, there were tens of thousands of dinners served in the dinner house at the park, which no longer exists. But it was just a moment in our history that I think was it was kind of straddled a celebration between what we have been or who we have been and our determination to go on being those people in this place. And it was a remarkable group that did that. Right in the middle of all of this rather forlorn economy that we were living in and had to deal with, in 10 families in Inverness became part of the co-op movement and built 10 houses up on what we call Quap Street. There were the new houses in Quap Street. When they were 50 years old, there were still the new houses on Quap Street. But that was 10 families who committed to building a new place under the Quap concept, and and that personal investment in the town of putting new roots into the ground was, I think, a really important commitment. And that's now Hillcrest Street. People don't call it Co-op Street anymore. But there was a time when somebody would ask me, where's Hillcrest Street in Inverness? I wouldn't have a clue.
So we'd think of it as co-op.
It's Co-op Street. Well, it was. I thought it was Co-op Street.
What year was that when the families got together?
Okay, I remember the foundations being built. I guess it was just a block from where I lived. I'm thinking around 1951, 52. And that's when things were beginning to look very, very grim in this area.
You write about things, in your past, and I'm usually amazed at the amount of detail and I believe that it's true. I don't think you make it up.
Oh no! Well, I can't say I don't make it up, but but there are collaborators.
Yeah, no, this is a historical reference. There's no way you could embellish the story.
It's a child's memory of that week, but that memory was shared by every child and every adult in the town for years after. And what is now the Inverness Gathering was what evolved out of that Old Home Week, and it never stopped. That celebration has never stopped every summer.
Do you think, Frank, with towns such as Inverness, when people are so proud of their heritage and their connection to the town, that they become more protective? So there's some sort of a xenophobia. You don't want others to start setting roots. So now an awful lot of properties that are being sold to U.S. Owners, and now with the advent of the golf courses, many changes taking place to the town. Is there such a thing as xenophobia, or are we embracing the change in town? Is there a resistance?
I don't know. I'm aware of all the people who have moved to this area since the 60s, particularly, and have become part of the town or part of the county and part of the development and part of the positive things that go on. And there's apprehension with change, but I don't. In any particular population, you're going to find a percentage that are going to have ugly views on newcomers or on color or on religion or on whatever it is. There's going to be that population. People would say, it's a small town mentality. In fact, it's not a small town mentality, because if you go into cities, every city is made up of neighborhoods, and neighborhoods are small towns. And in those neighborhoods, you'll find the same percentage of racism, bigotry. For the most part, that is a minority. It's a minority that gets media attention way out of proportion to the numbers and to the openness of the majority of people, or the tolerance of the majority of people. I don't feel threatened by much of what's been changing. I know that the current development is going to have a huge impact on the town I grew up in. 10 years from now, I don't know what it's going to look like. But I do know, had this development not happened, I know what this town would look like in 10 years' time. And it would be, basically, yes. An elderly group of hanger-oners like ourselves, because there was no evident alternative, economic alternative. And I'll tell you, when in 2012, when the links opened And Yorn, which I've worked at for 35 years, it's now 40 years, carried an ad in 2012, wanted 160 employees. We've never carried an ad like that before, 160 employees. And that was the Lynx course. And what happened was that a lot of young people, students, instead of going out to Fort McMurray or Alberta, where the money was much better, because here you're working basically minimum wage, opted to stay home. Maybe staying home meant, you're staying with mom, she's doing the laundry, she's doing the cooking, and maybe she's not taking a board. But anyway, they know what also goes on the beach at night if you happen to be home in the summer, and the party and that. And so in the summer of 2012, and since then, the summers are just vibrating with youth in this town. And this town hasn't been that young since I was young. When I was young, the Trudeau government had programs like Opportunities for Youth, where you could create your own job if you had an imaginative project that accomplished, and its criteria was that if you accomplished something in your community that wouldn't normally get done. And so lots of these grants were given out all across the country. But it allowed young people to remain home, and at that time, I mean, the music, the rock music, and through the 60s, early 70s, it was a fabulous place to be young, and I think it is again. I know.
This is great, Frank.
I know. The time I shut up. Yeah.
Take a break.
I think maybe we got enough of